All right, everyone, Mike? All right, it's 4 o'clock. I'm going to call to order our special council meeting of December 12th, 2024. Can I get the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you, everyone. Oh, Susan is in charge today.
Yes.
Susan, can we get a roll call, please?
Trustee Gates,
Here.
Trustee Hansen,
Here.
Trustee Solly,
Here.
Trustee Seltzer,
Here.
Trustee Salaga,
Here.
Trustee Goldberg.
Here. All right, so we only have one item on the agenda again, and it's to continue our consideration of a new appointment to the village council. Where we left off last meeting was we had begun to consider some outside applicants, outside those who had submitted inside our initially prescribed time period. And as a result of considering additional people, we felt that it was fair that anybody in the village who wanted to be considered could again resubmit. And we have had a few additional individuals resubmit. So I'm going to start out with, if any of the, I guess we have Ross, we have Daniel, we have Natalia, and we have Mr. Hankey. If any of you would like an opportunity to speak to us, I'll give you like 3 minutes to speak. So Linda, if you want to go first, feel free.
Before you do that, do we need to do public comments? Because we do have a couple community members here. And we
I didn't see it on our agenda, but,
Well,
all right, we didn't have it on our agenda, but we do traditionally have public comments. So if we do have any member of the public here that's here that would like to make a statement before we do our business, feel free to come up, state your name and address, please.
Do we want to time public comment 3 minutes?
Yeah, we're going to keep everything to 3 minutes today, other than question and answer.
30320 King Carden. And I wanted to first welcome Michael. Good that you could join us. And next, I'd like to say that I think that the Monday night I spent here showed how fruitless that process was. Everybody knew how they were going to vote. Angelina, you asked everybody certain very introspective questions. I suspect that there was nothing they could answer that was going to change your vote. It was a fruitless process. And I think there's got to be something that's got to be done about it. I don't know what it is. I have ideas, and I'd like to engage other people about it. But I think that this is going to happen again and again because the positions are going to open up as people drop out, and we've got to figure out something that's better than what we're doing. Now, as far as I've heard that Mark Hankey is one of the people that you're considering, and I would just like to personally say that my experience with Mark Hankey on the board, as a trustee, is very negative. He's a very bitter, negative, I will say contemptuous person. And I really think it would be a very big mistake to vote him into that position. He also has certain negative background issues, which I will not mention, but I think that...
We're going to be addressing the candidates later. Do you have any other public comments other than addressing our certain applicants?
No.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
If I could interject, you have a right to freedom of speech. We ask that you address the issues, not assassinate anyone's character. These are important issues. Rhetoric obviously is high right now, but address the issues. Try not to not address anyone's character, anyone personally, address the issues.
And thank you for that, Peter. And again, this is not our regular meeting. This is a special meeting. We open public comments as a courtesy, and it wasn't for the purpose of that. So, all right, so we have had, like I said, 4 new people submit resumes or indicate, sorry, 5, although one of them was already considered last night. So, if any of you are here and would like to be heard, Linda, you said you wanted to go, so why don't you go first, and then we'll hear from Mark.
Do we want to time these at 3 minutes as well, or?
Please, I mean, if there's questions from the council, we can go beyond that, but.
Okay.
Hi?
My name is Linda Hiller Novak. I live on Scenic Drive in Franklin. I live in the house that I grew up in, and 18 years ago renovated it when my parents passed away and moved in. So I've got a long history of Franklin and all of its committees and workings. I still remember my parents fighting with the Historic Commission when they wanted to build that house because it was a modern house in Franklin, and nobody wanted modern at that time. So things change, things come around, life changes. When I did my renovations on my house, the first thing that happened is they said, "Thank God you're not tearing it down." So everything changes. I am an associate broker at Max Brook Realtors in Birmingham. I have been in real estate for 37 years. I was a retail broker in San Francisco for 10 years, and then moved back here and have made the switch and been doing residential real estate. That's probably too high for me, isn't it? Been doing residential real estate for the last 17 years. In my free time, I'm on the board of ALS of Michigan. I am the past president. I served as president for 8 years. I think I've been on the board for close to 20 years now. Previous board member on the YMCA of Birmingham. I got affiliated with them when I lived in San Francisco and was on their board. I have 2 kids. My son Frank is actually on the Main Street Franklin board and very, very involved in baseball. So he's gotten real involved with Franklin baseball this year. He is the chair of the Lakes Baseball League. So he's really involved with that and with Main Street. He is my partner in business. Some other things about me, I have had business experience. I was the founder of a company called Right Moves for Seniors, which I did as part of my real estate. I worked with a partner who was a senior move manager and a stager, so we did a soup to nuts moving program for seniors. We also had a consignment store and did estate sales. So I ran all that. I did the business plan. I came up with it, and it was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, her husband got very, very ill. She had to retire after about 8 years of a successful business, and 60 hours a week I was already working wasn't going to work for me taking that over too. So any questions you have for me?
That was,
Linda, how many boards are you on right now?
2.
Besides, yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm
in the village.
sorry, 1. Right now, I'm just on ALS of Michigan. I'm also on the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals. I've been on there for, I'm not even sure, I'm guessing 6 years, 5 years?
Yeah.
So Franklin is my heart. It's my family's heart. I love it here. Every time I come home, I look and think this is the best place in the world. I'd like to keep it that way. I'm not a contentious person, but I'm strong-minded. I say what I think. I like to keep informed on things, and I love this community to the bottom of my heart. I am involved in it a lot, both on a real estate and a personal basis. So, any questions?
Anyone else?
I have just this. I want to thank you because you've always been here for us on all different levels. And starting from the very moment I moved into the village of Franklin in 1995, when this man knocked on my front door with a great big bag of groceries and said, I wanted to welcome you and your wife and your little children into the neighborhood. I'm Sid Hiller, and I've got some groceries for you, and there's more where this came from. And so that kind of warmth exudes from the Hiller family, and I know that we've
Yeah.
asked you to step up in certain areas as well, sponsorships of various promotions that we've run here in the community, and you've always been there. And I appreciate you. I know we all appreciate you.
And I always will be.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else?
What are the biggest opportunities you see for Franklin moving forward?
Oh, my gosh. Well, you know, what I'm seeing right now is just the youth moving into Franklin, which I love. My son and I probably sell more homes in Franklin than anybody. We really market here, and I love it here, and I love that there are young families moving in. I think that the opportunities are absolutely endless. You know, I'm planning, we've been talking about the pathways and accessibilities, and that's really exciting to me, that we make it a walkable and a reachable community for everybody. You know, Franklin over the years has had perceptions of north of 13 and south of 13 and property values and how things are affected. And so I think that's one of the opportunities, but I think that there are just so many. I think that our downtown is just on the edge of taking off. I think that's going to be incredibly exciting coming up, and I think that once we get the new restaurants open, that the retail is going to follow, and, you know, with that, on and on and on.
You mentioned too that you want Franklin to stay the way that it is.
No,
Was that
I didn't,
any-
I did not say that.
I just mean, like, what things would you like to see remain?
Well, I love the charm and the character of Franklin. I think that's great. I think that the new streetscapes are absolutely stunning. I think it has done so much to improve the values. I mean, even the crosswalks, anything that can encourage people to come downtown and get involved in the activities. And we've also we've been sponsoring probably 4 or 5 events a year. And we did the pumpkins for the pumpkin roll, and we've participated in a couple of the events. We've brought in hot dog trucks and gifts, and it's just so much fun. And I really, you know, I'm a mom. I have 2 kids. My daughter is a physician at U of M. I have 4 grandkids. And I love the vitality and the interest and seeing things happen here. It's gorgeous. It's charming. Are there things that I'm interested in? Absolutely. There were things, and a big part of it is because of planning and because of zoning. I've learned a ton about Franklin. I guess my main issues are probably with people hooking into the sewer system. I think that's something that maybe can be addressed in the future when I realize that they don't bid those jobs out. There's just one company that they go with. That's something that, you know, I might in the future want to see addressed. We've had some interesting things as far as people using artificial turf. But we really don't have anything as far as building materials on the book. So there's a lot of things that pique my interest. I'm a pretty calm person, and I'm pretty reasonable, and I realize that there's 2 sides to everything. So, you know, I think that all my years of negotiating, I've learned to shut up and listen.
Would it be safe to say, since there is a drumbeat of being progressive and bringing new people into the community as the community ages, that you've probably been responsible for bringing more new young families into this community
Yeah.
than anybody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have. And we've run our numbers.
Yeah.
And, you know, we may not always sell the most expensive houses, but geez, I think on Hersheyville alone, we sold 5 houses in the last couple of years, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they've all been young families, well, except for one. They've been
Okay.
young families.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Linda, thank you so much.
Sure,
Thank
thank
you.
you, thank
Thank
you.
Mark, I see you're here.
President, trustees, very glad to be up here and talking to you. Mark Hankey, I've served for the last 4 years, my first term as a Franklin trustee. I've given you a short one-page resume, just a background on myself, focused on Franklin, what matters to Franklin and yourselves as council. And you might ask the question, why did you not run for office this time? Because I'm focused on Franklin, and there was a medical condition I had that might have taken me out for as much as 6 months of doing any activity. And if I was going to run for president, that was on the ballot, or run for trustee, I can't not support the village, run for office, and then not support the village. So I said I should not do that. And then, I was not sure, how would that play out for 4 full years. So I did not want to run for office and then have to stop after 2 years. So that's one thing on the table. I'll make sure we clarify about that. In terms of my experience, I've got a lot of professional experience. Professionally, I was a manufacturing director of Ford, worked in operations, worked in the plants, really hands-on kind of work. The same kind of thing here at Franklin Village. Hands-on leadership, servant leadership. You may know that, I was a business owner here, Farmhouse Coffee and Ice Cream. That was our vision. I sank $200K into that to turn that building around. While doing that, a lot of things we did, servant leadership. I paid for the ice rink for the village. I built by hand myself all my materials, 2 years in a row. My wife Angie and I, we started the Franklin Farmers Market. That was in the bank parking lot right next to the farmhouse. Angie and I, we started Frankenstein Frenzy. We did that. This is now the 15th year, I think, for that one. So some other things. So I served in the DEI committee when I was trustee. And one of the things I'm proud of is that we developed an appointment process that we stuck to. There were certainly times the last 4 years where that might have been skipped to get a name in. And we stuck to that, and we did our process to make sure open up leadership in the village to all the people. I was on the finance committee. I was very engaged with our budgeting process. One thing that we did change is how we look at the budgets every year. It used to be they would just look at that annual budget. Now we went back and said, I want the last 4 years of data, where we were, are we going up, are we going down, and really starting to put it into our finances in context. That helped so much for 22 and 23 and 24 now. I was engaged with personnel committee, engaged with the residents. One thing I'm really proud of in my last 4 years. So if you remember, one of our residents lives on a section, David Lenevitt, lives over by the river. And when it was flooding, he didn't know who to call. And he called me on a Saturday night. And I went to his house at 11 p.m. and moved his furniture for him and his wife. I went there and did that because he didn't know anybody to call. But we had worked with him one-on-one because of his
He called me, but I gave him your number.
That was good. So then other things. So my background is in engineering. I'm an engineer, but I also worked in leadership and management for many, many years. Personally, I've raised my family here. I've been here for 24 years. My son and my daughter, they're off in college now. Very active in the scouting community. So I donated. I paid for the new scout trailer when they needed a new trailer. I donated that. When Jane Poland came in and asked scout help for the gazebo, I organized that. I paid for the materials, and we painted that. We rebuilt those stairs. We rebuilt those handrails. We did that. So I'm very proud of those things. So future goals, right? Develop new funding sources for the village. We have an upcoming crisis with our revenue and our expenses, and we stalled it by doing the Henley Amendment, the adjustment. That buys us 2 years maybe, but we have a real risk there that we have to address. I've got some new ideas about how to generate revenue for the village that does not include taxes. As we know, the village is not amenable to more taxes. That's going to be a tough sell. So I've got some good ideas about how we can increase our tax base and how to generate other revenue sources for the village.
We have 3 minutes.
That's about your 3 minutes.
Very good. Any questions for me?
Who has questions for
Question.
Mark?
Mark, I do.
Please.
When you were managing at Ford Motor Company, how many people were under your employ?
At the largest, several thousands of people. So I was a manufacturing director. We have 77 plants worldwide. I had teams in every plant, and then I had regional leads representing them. And our focus is on two things: process improvement, making our factories run better, then standardization, how our factories operate. So we have to run very efficiently. So both those actually translate well into what we need to do in government. Standardizing.
My point is that you've had a lot of experience in managing significant pieces of business and people. And you started a business here in the village, which was as successful as you could possibly make it. We loved that farmhouse. We loved Angie. And everybody in the community misses that, talks about that. I just want to say how grateful we all are for the contributions you and Angie made.
Thank you. And in fact, I'm working very closely with Elise Oberon on the new farmhouse, what she's working on. And as a trustee, I was helpful to get her liquor license. So I'm still working closely with Lisa and with Elise.
I don't think there's any question about you as a member of this council, because you've been here and you're proven. And it was your decision to step away. So I don't think there's anything more that I need.
I am mindful that we have 2 brand-new council members and who don't know you. And,
I know, Mark.
oh, you do. I'm sorry. You do. I'm interested in your thoughts on, you've mentioned one thing that you'd like to continue to work to improve our financial position in the village, and you've got some ideas for that. What other areas would you see as a priority should you be rejoining the council?
Thanks, Pam. So one massive opportunity we have in the village, and this came up when we did our water quality and quantity survey, there is widespread dissatisfaction in the village with well water. 50% of the people liked it, what they had, they don't want to change. 50% fully said, like, what are we doing? This is, at the time it's 2022. We are still operating well water. And that is a negative impact in so many ways for the village. We pay higher fire insurance because we're on well. As you will, remember, when fires happen in the village, as good as Chief Tony and the teams are, they struggle not to lose the entire house because they have a 3,000 gallon, pumper trucks that last 3 minutes. And then they have to go refill. So, one opportunity we have in the village is let's work on our access to municipal water. Now, 3 or 4 years ago, we started this, and this got stalled, here in our own council. How do we create special assessment districts for small portions that want municipal water, that they, SAD, they can vote, so we're going to pay for that line down this road here, right? We have lots of homes that are directly across the street from municipal water. The Franklin, the gated community off Telegraph Road, they could have had water brought in if we allowed it as council, and that would have stopped that house from burning down there. So that's a massive opportunity we have here in the village to start letting that trickle in. There's one of many. I could talk for an hour.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Right. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
So I want to add that in addition to Mark and Linda, since yesterday, we received 3 additional communications. We received a resume from Daniel Rosenberg. We received a resume from Ross Macbeth. And we also received a communication from Natalia Shub, all indicating their desire to be included in the discussion. Being that I know everyone in the room, I'm going to presume neither of them are here, none of them are here.
No, can we hear from Bashir and Dan? I don't know.
Oh, I know.
Well, just because it's been a few days.
If you want, sure.
Lots happens. and-
Bashir, Dan, if you guys want to speak again, feel free.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to think of myself that maybe an option that could break the impasse. I've run for election in this past cycle, and I'm a volunteer in the community, not so much within the commissions, but within the committees, within our community, you know, STEM coaching, soccer coaching for kids, and you know, I'm a part of the board of the PMI chapter here in Southfield, Project Management Institute. So there's a volunteer experience there. You know, I've learned as well how important it is to have volunteer experience as well within the community here, and I bring similarity to a lot of the candidates, but I like to think of myself maybe as the middle ground option for everyone. You know, maybe the council choice, the people's choice. You know, I'd love to work with you guys. I think I bring business experience similar to Mark. You know, I manage business in a business unit of $8 billion. I've got plants here in the country and globally as well. I have 10 people that report directly to me. Globally, I have about, I want to say, close to 85, 90 people in my N+1. So I bring management experience, business experience, and as well, I went and, just a reminder, I went and door to door. I knocked on every door. I talked to a lot of our constituents. And, you know, I have firsthand data. I heard exactly what matters for the people and what they look to change. And yes, our community is getting a lot younger. And, you know, I think I have a lot of inputs and ideas on how we can move forward. And, you know, I know there's a lot of change requested. How can we do this change, you know, with the least cost possible and make sure that we create a win-win opportunity for everyone? So,
Bashir,
question.
can I ask a
Yeah.
question? I think you've done an excellent job of presenting yourself, and I know you took the time and the effort to canvass and secure petitions and go out and do the door knocking. And obviously, you ran a campaign that, unfortunately, you didn't win.
Yep.
But you've expressed your interest in being a volunteer, and there are a number of places where I suggest that you might consider. It's difficult for us to reconcile, given the fact that you did run and you didn't win. It's hard for us then to be the deciders here, because that's what we're being asked to do, to put somebody on the council that ran unsuccessfully. We've had a number of calls from others who similarly ran unsuccessfully. That's a problem. One question, do you serve on the board of the Michigan Republicans Congressional District organization?
Is that important for this discussion?
Just a question, you know, because I know you've asked me
I
to.
mean, we are bipartisan, Mike, so.
Yeah.
No, I understand. I just want, I'm
I'm
trying to get board,
nonpartisan.
I'm trying to get board experience.
Oh.
Are there any boards that you?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I serve on that board. Again, I don't bring it up.
I
as-
don't see that as a demerit. I'm-
No.
I'm asking-
I just did not bring it up to the fact out of, you know, this is a bipartisan, but yeah, I'm pretty active within the congressional district, the 12th district in the Republican Party. I've been active for a bit.
Yeah.
So it's been a while since.
Yeah, don't misunderstand.
No problem.
I'm
No, yeah, it's
to try
something
and
I'm proud
learn
of.
more about the
Yeah,
experience
absolutely.
people have.
Yeah, and we have similar boards, similar counselors, similar processes.
Because I want to join you.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Anyone
Thank you.
can join us.
Thank
We're
you.
happy to. So,
That's all, that's all.
Anybody
Yeah.
else? Thanks, Bashir.
of course.
Thank you.
Dan, you
Thank
want
you,
to
guys.
speak?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak again. I did just want to address a couple of points that have come up in the discussion. One being, I know there's been concern expressed about potentially having 4 lawyers on council if I were appointed. And many lawyer jokes have come to mind as I've been listening to this discussion that I won't repeat here. But I don't think that that's...
Why not?
I don't think that that's a negative, and in fact, I think that's natural. I think that people go into law because they're passionate about public policy and service and advocating for others, and So I'd like to think that my skills as an attorney and my underlying passion, the reasons I went into the career, are actually assets for the job rather than as some kind of detriment. And I also wanted to speak to concerns that were expressed about the duration of my residency in Franklin being not as long as other candidates. And I just wanted to be clear to everyone that I am a respectful, deferential person, and I'm someone who, if I was serving on council, would certainly be receptive to listening to experiences of those on council who have been here longer than I am, and absolutely take that into account as we are considering issues. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Dan, I have a question.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I forgot about that.
You've been here the last 3-4 days as we've been debating this pretty heavily, and I think you've been a witness to the dynamic across the council today. And I think one thing I've been thinking a whole lot about these last few days is how to get the most out of that dynamic and how to create a collaborative environment that frankly gets things done. And coming in, like it's clear on this vote, we're very close, and my concern is that that will continue to be the case moving forward. So you might theoretically be a swing vote, or you'd sit in a very divided council, you'd join a divided council in that way, at least if this is any indication. How might you slide into that opportunity and help us to move the needle in using your experience?
Well, I think part of the answer to your question is what I said already, is that I'm a deferential, respectful person and a thoughtful person, and ultimately I want to do what's right for Franklin, consider all the issues, take in all the perspectives, and then make a decision that I think is in the best interest of the village. That's how I'd stand, that's how I'd approach things. I hope you can tell about me already that I'm not someone who's going to be aggressive or causing any kind of personality conflicts. I don't think on the council that's not really my approach or my style. But
There's no room for that on this council.
But I'm someone who would seek to find consensus and explore the issues in a thoughtful way, and then come to the most sensible decision for the village. Yes.
Thank you, Dan, for coming back and for speaking.
You're welcome.
I'm reflecting on a question that Abby asked Al Ludwig, and I'd like to know from you, I'm going to ask the same question. Why didn't you run for council?
Yeah, that's a fair question as well. And to be honest with you, I had been serving on Planning Commission. I had my head down and was doing that job. And the thought of running for council myself hadn't crossed my mind whenever the time was to submit an application for that. And the analogy that's come to me in helping to explain this is oftentimes companies will post a job application and people aren't paying attention, they don't read it, they don't get the right candidate just by posting the application. And sometimes what it takes is for a company to go out and hire a recruiter and call people and say, hey, I know about this great job opportunity, you seem like a good fit, would you be interested? And then there's a whole business for recruiters, headhunters, they're often called in order to find these right candidates, because just posting an application doesn't necessarily bring the best candidates for the job. And so that's how this opportunity has come to me. I wasn't thinking about it, wasn't on my radar to run, but then when I was approached and suggested that I throw my hat in the ring, I thought, you know what, I think I would be a good candidate for this. I am really passionate about it. I am interested in it. And so I think that speaks to your question.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
And I would add also that that was one of the first questions I asked you when we spoke on Saturday, and you gave me that response. And I appreciate your being honest and candid about it. And without being cynical, obviously, it's a lot harder to go out and campaign and canvass and take the time and energy. And for whatever reason, you didn't. And so now this is an opportunity. And for us as a council, we are in a place where we're looking for the candidate that we feel best serves us based on a number of criteria, but experience is one of them. And we've already, debated endlessly about the difference in experience between you and Al Ludwig. Now we've been forced in a position where Al Ludwig has withdrawn. Really the worst possible outcome. And not only withdrawn, I think feelings have been hurt. One of the things I shared with you when we spoke on Saturday was that my concern was that this is a messy and awkward process because we have to do it publicly. And we've had situations where we have multiple candidates, or at least two, who have to then be pitted against each other in this little bit of a competition. Both you and Al were told that we share a lot of common interests in each of you, but for the reasons that have been responded and recited ad nauseum, we don't need to go back and forth on that. I did mention to you that I thought it would be a good thing, since you had respect for Al, and that you wanted to, see that there was a continued relationship there, because you'd still have to work with him if you were on council and he's on planning, or the opposite, that you might consider withdrawing from this, because based on the lack of experience and lack of residency, we had that concern. All right, I'm not going to repeat it. I see David's impatient,
Well,
so I'm
again,
sorry. I just wanted to say thank you.
We're beyond.
But we lost another candidate,
Okay,
and I
but
think it's
that was
noteworthy.
his choice. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So we've now heard from some additional candidates. We've heard from already existing candidates. I'm going to allow anyone to have discussion, but at this point, I'm just going to say, does anybody want to make a motion?
I would like to make a
So,
motion.
real quick, before we,
I would like to make a motion.
Mike, go ahead. What do you want to say?
all right. What I wanted to say is to speak to the two additional applications that we received before us, as they're not here.
Okay?
So one of them is Daniel Rosenberg, and the other one is Ross Macbeth. Daniel Rosenberg lives near Pam and has been involved within the community, has come to our village council meetings, got involved with the improvement of cell service. And it was, for him, the reason that he stepped out of that was similar to the reason that we as a council similarly did, which was it became a very vocal wave of opposition. And so he ultimately was highly involved, but then when he didn't see progress with the council, that's where he kind of decided to take a step back. But he reached out with interest within this position, and has always been, very involved with the dealings of the village, attends village events regularly. So I just wanted to speak to what I know of him and his involvement of attending councils. So I don't know if anybody else has any other knowledge. Pam, I know he lives near you. I don't know if you've ever,
I don't think I know him.
okay.
Do you know what street he lives on?
Dennison, he's not a lawyer.
I read his resume, but I just haven't.
He grew
met
up
him.
in the area, has 3 children, attended council meetings in person, has spoken during public comment, active in the community, may not have the same path as others, but is definitely civically engaged and has always wanted to be a greater, have a greater role in this community. So.
Can I ask
think that's awesome.
Why he's not here? Does anybody
Short
know?
notice.
He just found out 18 hours ago.
Okay, so can I also ask, because it feels to me, I'm curious, these two resumes look identical. What a coincidence that is. Who put these two resumes
It's printed
together?
up from LinkedIn. It's the.
I'm sorry?
It's the LinkedIn PDF export file.
So it's just a coincidence that both resumes
No,
are?
she's saying that it's an
No, no,
export
when you
from
export something
LinkedIn.
from LinkedIn, it downloads in this format.
So they
It's-
sent
it's
their,
a-
they sent their LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Both of them did?
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's, not.
Why is that a problem, though?
It looks really specious to me.
You
But
think
they have
In what
people
s-
don't exist?
In what sense?
In what sense?
Yeah.
That you're speaking on behalf of somebody who's not here because it's short notice, and I assume you're then
Hang
going
on, Mike, you did that yesterday.
Yeah, because I'm perceptive about what I see as a drive on your point
Mike,
to
you're
select
making
somebody
this
that you're.
overly contentious.
All right.
You weren't here on Monday and you had 12 months notice.
Why are you cutting her off?
All right.
Because,
Guys.
let's not go down that road. Nothing would have.
Anything else to say about the candidates?
Not about Daniel. So then we have Ross Macbeth. Ross lives on Franklin Road. Again, he previously attended a lot of council meetings. I previously laughed and asked him when it was nominations for something, whether or not he had previously applied. He said no. I said, then why are you here? And he said, well, I'm just generally curious about the community. During the streetscape and the sidewalks, his property was one of the properties that was impacted, and yet was a very involved advocate for the sidewalk project, including coming to speak at the various forums that were held, as well as the council meetings. His wife was detailed out for the FBI in DC for the past 18 months, so hasn't been able to attend the council meetings, and will be returning to the community, so he wanted to put his hat into the ring as well.
Okay.
He's not a lawyer. and
All right,
won't leave a
I just got a
vacancy.
text from Al Ludwig that we can still nominate him, just so you know. In any event,
So Dan doesn't have to withdraw now?
I didn't ask him to withdraw.
And I'm
I didn't
probably
ask him.
speaking out of line.
I'm just telling you, I got a text. I'm not considering Al, I'm not considering Dan.
President, you run these meetings, but let's give each other the benefit of the doubt when we're speaking and we're not taking shots at one another.
Okay.
And we should put some decorum here. I get this is highly contentious. There are mentions of things being non-transparent. Let's give each other the benefit of the doubt, okay? What you guys all want, I could see, all want Franklin to succeed. And you guys may have different means of getting there. Let's not try to run people over on how you get there. There are ways, I understand that it may be a split decision, but let's give people the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
And not run each other over, so.
I would like to put into
All right, well,
nomination.
hold on a second. So, thank you for that. And I have given way more slack these last couple days due to the nature of our subject matter. I do not want, moving forward, that this type of decorum amongst council. We are here to serve the residents. We don't all have to agree on everything, and we can all disagree on everything. And that's why we were elected to be in this position, and that's why we're going through the process we're going to try and figure out the character and experience of a candidate to also have to sit in that position. So, moving forward, we are going to act professionally, and we're going to do what we're supposed to do, which is the Village of Franklin's business. So please do not, whether it's the people watching at home or the people sitting in this room, if you think this is how it's going to be moving forward, that gavel's going to get hammered a lot, and no one's speaking unless I point to you. All right? I was the one who got elected president, and I have not been presidential so far, and I promise you, we are not leaving this room today without me being that. So let's move forward with some nominations on the existing people on the table, and then we're going to leave here with a new trustee.
I would like to apologize to David, to Mr. President and to David for what you perceive as contentiousness. I'm sorry. You and I have had a good relationship. We've worked together. We don't always agree, but I feel like this has been a real strain for all of us. And I'd like to move forward, and I apologize.
Yeah, and Mike,
Okay.
you know me, I never take it
Okay.
personal. The tone, it just comes down to exactly what Peter said with regard to candor. As somebody who doesn't take contention personal, it's probably because I'm a contentious person as well. And I just know that sometimes that when you meet friction with friction, it just results in friction, and so we don't need that for the people.
So I would like to place into nomination Linda Novak for the reasons that I expressed last night. She's here tonight. She was here last night. She's well-known. She asked if I would forward her resume, which I did to each member of this council. For those who didn't know her, I expected a response, maybe some questions or anything. I got no response from anybody, so for whatever that's worth. These new resumes that are before us, I think, don't deserve consideration because they're not here. We don't know these people, and it's the same problem that we're having with the lack of volunteerism, the lack of exposure, and the lack of experience. So, Linda, and I'm struggling because I think Mark is also an excellent choice for a lot of reasons. But we started with Linda, and I think we should complete the process. And hopefully, we can come to consensus as a team. There should be no reason why we can't come around and support somebody who has done so much in this community, has so much experience, so much
So
drive.
is that a motion? We have a motion on the
That
floor?
that is my motion.
Do we have a second?
Uh-oh, here we go again. I will second that.
Okay. Do we have further discussion?
Sure, I'd just like to say, both Linda and Mark I've had text exchanges with them, and they've both been to my house in the last month, separate and apart from this. So I know them both very well. And it seems like everyone that's coming in, I have a personal relationship with, and I respect them. I've had their sign on my lawn. I've had both of your signs on my lawn. Now that I sit next to you, and I may think differently, because I'm no longer supporting your initiatives, I don't want you to think that it's personal at all. And Linda and I have served on the zoning board together. Mark literally has supported my family since we moved in. So they are exceptional candidates, but I'm not voting on my personal friendship with them. And I would hope that the rest of the council would need it.
Thanks. So we have, go ahead.
So a couple things that I wanted to address, and I didn't know, I just figured I'll interject now, which is Abby had made a comment that she really hopes that this is not indicative of what the future will look like for this council. And I just want to reiterate for everybody sitting at the table, as well as everybody in the audience, and potentially anybody watching online, that I genuinely do not believe that the passions, generously passions towards one another right now, will be reflective of what this council is. I think we're very passionate about getting this decision right. I think on most issues, we're more aligned than we're not. And that's why I think it's incredibly important to not get personal as we have these conversations, is because I do think that as we're getting lost a little bit in the forest through the trees, whatever it is. But again, I just want to let everybody know that I do believe that we have plenty of common ground. The reason that I didn't ask a lot of questions of the candidates is the same reason, as Angelina just noted, which is I do know them already. I have no desire to ask a question that's going to be perceived as me having already made up my mind. And so I just wanted to make that note. With regard, and also to candidates, please do not take any of these votes personal. If, you know, it is the hardest thing being up here and having to reject or deny people that we not only care about, but genuinely feel that you care about us too. So through this process, it's impossible not to feel awkward, as David said. So I wanted to make that clear too. And this next comment is not deemed to be negative. It is a genuine question. There is no ill intent of it. And so I think Peter appropriately identified that. I do have some concern around Linda as a candidate, not as a person, but because her business is focused so heavily within Franklin. I don't know from a policy standpoint whether or not that creates a conflict of interest or how we would manage conflicts of interest in future decisions and resolutions that we pass. That is a concern that I actively do have.
Sir? Anyone else?
You know, we talk a lot about tenure and function and
You can go.
And diversity of thought and, you know, background and serving the community. And what I've realized these last few days is it's really lonely to be someone so new to this, who does deeply care about Franklin. It feels unsettling, I guess. And we've got a lot of tenured council members here, a lot of tenured resources in the community. And Dave, you and Angelina have really jumped in feet first. And, you know, while my efforts have been very quiet and I've managed to get people together in my neighborhoods, and I've built some really lovely, deeply held, wonderful relationships in my life, that perspective is important, to have someone who is coming to this with new and fresh perspectives of living in this community. I do think that should be something we should consider with more weight, is just because someone may not have the background serving on these committees or has served in a very public-facing opportunity and is a known entity, does not mean they lack judgment, skills, or ability to positively affect this community. And I do think that's worth considering, someone who may not bring that level of experience, because it may in fact be an asset. I think it's an asset, and it feels frightening for me to step into this, because I don't know that, I don't know if that's felt. I don't know if I feel like I have a perspective that's valued, but I know that it is valuable. And so my concern in having someone else who has, if we're going to go the route of having someone who spent a lot of time in those committees, is it's not a very malleable perspective. And I do think there's value in having someone who may have a newer perspective. And I think it's, when I really pressed myself to think long and hard about why I was so bullish about someone who may not have that depth of committee experience in the village, it's because there still is a tremendous amount of value in their perspective at all, period, hard stop. And I'm certain that Danny and Ross would offer the same things. I know that Bashir deeply loves this community, and I don't think it's a reflection of his capabilities as someone who can serve in this capacity. I know Mark has been just an incredibly long history of serving Franklin, and I assume you'll still continue to do that, and Linda, the same for you. But I think that there's value in new perspective. And it's something I've been thinking a lot about these last couple of days, when I've tried to nail down, why is this the hill I'm seemingly dying on? And I think it's a little bit of that. It feels lonely being someone who is new to the game and may not perhaps feel as though my perspective is taken seriously.
Thank you for.
Hold on, time out. Mike, you had something to say?
Well, I just, I have to respond to what David said about Linda's business having some sort of impact. You know, the president of this council for years was Jim Kokensparger, who had not only one but two very successful businesses in this community, as a landscaping company called Greenscapes and as the Franklin Grill. I don't think that's ever been a criteria of concern, having someone who happens to have successful businesses and how that might impact, because Linda is serving on two other committees anyway, and I don't think that was ever an issue. So I just wanted to address that. As to Abby's comments about being the lone person, you know, David was new on council when he joined 4 years ago, and Angelina is brand new on council today. So it's not like you're sitting with just veterans. And yes, there were other places that you could have gone to start, and that's often where people come from. But you're here. So we're going to try to work together as professionally as we can. But I think one of the disadvantages you have is sitting there and not knowing any of these people who we know well. And we only know them well because we've been here for a long time, and they've been here for a long time, and I don't consider that to be a negative. I consider that
I don't consider that to be.
All right, guys, time out. All right, again, the discussion is on a vote for a specific candidate. So if we're not going to discuss the candidate, I'm really not interested in going down the path of our conduct right now. That's for another day that we started at our last meeting. So I'm just going to call the vote because there isn't a lot more to say. I'm kind of getting sick of hearing from all you guys. So I'm going to call the vote. So there's a motion on the table and a second to appoint Linda Hiller-Novak to the Village Council. Susan, a roll call vote, please.
Trustee Gates,
No.
Trustee Hansen,
Yes.
Trustee Solly,
No.
Trustee Seltzer,
yes.
No.
President Colbert.
Yes. Okay, that motion fails. Can I get another motion for someone?
Motion to add Mark Hankey as a member of the council.
Get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion on the subject?
I'd like to state that I've worked closely with Mark on the Finance Committee, and I think with Angelina's contribution to the new Finance Committee, Mark's experience as a trustee, the new members of the Finance Committee, I think we've got the strength on that group to tackle some very difficult issues. We're all looking at that 2029 problem, and we're going to have to work together to make sure the voters understand what needs to happen and why. And I wouldn't mind continuing that relationship with him. I'm going to throw out completely, what Dr. Simon mentioned about Mark, because I have more direct experience with Mark than he does. And sometimes when you have animated discussions, it's about the discussion. And we don't always show our best side, but I think Mark has done that. So I'm confident in that and would like to work with him again. I am, and in the general vein, well, I do appreciate what you're saying, Abby. I think 30% of the council is brand new, and I'm calling you new this time, even though you've been on zoning board. But I think 30% is a good number, well supported by people with a little bit more tenure. The most anybody's been on this council is 15 years. It's really easy to pile that up. But I like the idea of having new voices. I do. I don't want to be handicapped by new voices. So many, and we have business to do. I want to present a stable, thoughtful message to the villagers as we set about these difficult tasks. So that's a perspective that goes to my endorsement of Mark as to continue.
Okay, anyone else?
Just because you addressed Abby's comment, I just wanted to thank Abby for her vulnerability, because I don't think it's easy to be a new person in Franklin. I think that putting yourself in the shoes of all these new families that Linda has sold these houses to is why there was such a crowded field of candidacy. Why Bashir is here today, why Dan is here today, why Mark is back today, why Linda's here today. She can tell you, she sells more to younger families than she does. And what are we doing to show those young families that we care and that they don't have to be born, bred, and drink Franklin water for a decade in order to serve? Mark, I appreciate you. And I have to leave in 5 minutes.
Okay. All right, we have a motion. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Gates,
No.
Trustee Hansen,
Yes.
Trustee Solly,
No.
Trustee Seltzer,
Yes.
Trustee Slawka,
No.
President Colbert.
Yes. All right. Does anybody want to make a motion on any of the
I'll
new
make-
candidates?
I'll make a motion for Danny Rosenberg.
Okay, support? Anyone support? All right, no support. Anyone else want to make a motion for someone?
I'll make a motion for Natalia Shub.
Any support?
I'll second to take it to consideration and a vote.
Okay, well, Ms. Shub's not here. Anybody want to have discussion?
Yeah, I can speak to her. She's attended several council meetings, planning meetings, zoning board meetings. She lives on Franklin, engaged, attends events, not a lawyer, won't leave a vacancy on a board, has young kids, has been vocal, participated in public comment, involved, and has made herself known since she's lived here.
Anyone else? Roll call vote.
Trustee Biggs?
No.
Trustee Hansen?
No.
Trustee Solly?
No.
Trustee Seltzer?
No.
Trustee Salaka?
Yes.
President Colbert?
No.
I move to nominate Dan Ferris.
That wasn't where I was at yet. So, all right, so,
I'll make a motion to,
Mike?
No.
I have the floor.
I'm sorry.
I've sat here for 3 days and witnessed this council honestly be as embarrassing as we could be, as far as the way we've reacted with each other and communicated with each other. And as I said earlier, I hope that's not the case moving forward. I also concur with David, and I think I said this previously, what we're doing here today, particularly with regard to this specific position, which is an elected position, has nothing to do with qualification. There isn't a resident in the village that isn't qualified to sit here and do what we do, okay? What our issues are in the sense of this, everybody's talk about how long you've lived here or experiences on boards, is there's a lot of things that go into this beyond just sitting here for the time of our meeting. You have to have preparation. As a trustee, you get communications from outside residents on an ongoing basis. Times you have to go and visit them to see what their problems are. You have to be able to drop your job at any moment's cause, like we've had to the last 2 days. And it's because you have served on boards and been through a year or two of having to make it to a meeting and have a Boy Scout meeting, and your wife who's busy or your husband who's busy and 2 children have somewhere to be, and you've got a meeting and you got to figure out how to make it work. That's what we do, and that's why we look for someone who's already done that, whether in this capacity or in another capacity, to at least give us the idea that you're suited for this, when we have to sit in the shoes of the residents of Franklin. Now, I, as a president, and for the next 4 years, I plan to be a problem solver, not a problem creator. And I've sat here for 3 days, and I'm going to say I have 5 trustees at my side. And I had hoped that 4 of you, without my assistance, were going to be able to come to an agreement on another colleague, okay? And I understand how our charter works, and that even though we've had quorums at all of our meetings and we've had majority votes on candidates, we haven't met the charter requirement of 4 votes. And being that we've now officially run out of candidates, and I'm going on vacation in 2 days, and honestly don't want to worry about who's going to be the trustee moving forward, I have no choice, because what I've concluded in the last couple days is, outside of my vote, which has been the last vote, but outside of my vote, we have had 3-2, and that's the only time we've had 3-2 is for 1 candidate. And the candidate in question meets the criteria that I, as a president, have said I was looking for at the onset, was someone with experience, someone who I know has spoken and been an active contributor in the board that they sit on. I've wanted someone to be from the Planning Commission if that was at all possible, and we've been presented with 3 excellent candidates from the Planning Commission. Unfortunately, and I'm going to speak to the 3 that have been consistently voting no, the 3 of you have not moved at all. At least Pam and Mike have presented alternatives that have also failed. And you've presented alternatives apparently as well, but not falling in the criteria that I've been looking for. So I have no choice right now.
David, before you say that, did you hear when I said that Al texted and said he's willing to accept the position?
I mean, do we want to go, I'm not even going to go to a vote. Are either of you prepared to change your mind and vote for Al?
No.
I'm not.
Angelina, you're the one who voted no.
No.
Okay, all right, so no, I don't need to call the vote, all right? The vote's been had twice already. So, we have no choice, people. And I don't, as I was saying before, I have been the one who has gotten in the way. So I have to stop doing that. And I have no choice. So I am gonna move that we appoint Dan Ferris to the village council as an additional trustee. Do I have support?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Trustee Gates,
Yes.
trustee Hansen,
Yes.
trustee Solly,
Yes.
trustee Zelser,
Yes.
trustee Sudaka,
Yes.
I appreciate that support. I vote yes, and I appreciate your support in that. This is gonna be a solid council moving forward. Dan Ferris is gonna be an excellent addition. The people that did not apply are all excellent candidates. Every single one of you need to constantly apply your name into the hat every time a position is posted. And based upon what I'm gathering now, we have one position opening on the planning commission. We have a position on the zoning board of appeals that has already opened from this process. And I urge all of you to get involved because as I have stated, it is your involvement that helps us get to this point and get you to the point where you can run it another day, as Abby has said, and help us grow as a village. So I appreciate all of your support in making this happen. I'm sorry to those that I'm disappointing in doing this. And to those who have been consistent in your voting, I want to hope that we're going to be way more open-minded moving forward. Meeting adjourned.